Yeah, well, weirdly, that is Mark's topic. He's the one that raised that one. It's not even here. But yeah, so that, I literally...
just point out last minute pull out.
yeah. I bet he wish he did that a couple of years ago as
well. I mean, you can talk about your prison safe version of your metal and back up, and I'll talk about mine.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, I won't be showing it because it's an absolute pain in the arse to get to.
Literally.
As if you just said that. We're talking about prison safe and it's a pain in the arse to get to.
He was such a tight bastard. I'm glad he's gone.
I mean, that's a really good way to do it.
Do you see Darnell's dick then?
Well,
it's one way to start the podcast popping, isn't it?
Who's recording from the start?
We know what kind of call you were on before, with the fucking camera pointed down there. Just signed off from the OnlyFans.
Hey, if it pays the bills.
Always be hustling.
Anything for the sats.
I had that question today from my wife. What's OnlyFans? And I was just like, oh god.
Tell her to Google it and have a look. While she's working at home in lockdown, so if I can get on there, love.
Get some more money. Help pay for the work to the house.
Yeah.
So how do we start this? Do we start off with? It's just the three of us, apart from Mark, and we're not upset with him. We're just disappointed.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be a few of them is going to be missing as well.
Do we know why?
Yeah. I think it's the only night that he's got with him and the missus. So, like, she was like, "Oh yeah," but then you're off on your podcast with the boys, and then I'm just sat there twiddling my thumbs and don't really know what to do with myself. So.
Aren't you here another night?
Yeah, but with the kids then, or that's the only difference, I guess. Welcome to my world.
Yeah, it's fair enough, I guess. It is fair enough, but I suppose it's 2 hours. Like, maybe if you just joined for like half an hour, it's like it's better than nothing. But yeah, we probably get more.
Or if we could move it to the daytime. Yeah, I don't know if we could. Obviously, you're always free. I always just think Gaz diary free.
Yeah, I can just make room for it. It's like whatever. Like it's like I'm doing stuff, but I can fit it in whenever I want. But yeah, you guys are the ones working.
Yeah, the life of a retiree.
Yeah, in between his VIP Pornhub or something like that.
Just many subscriptions to only. And it's many subscriptions to OnlyFans.
Yeah, I actually did some
real categorized OnlyFans yet.
I don't know. It's so weird. I've seen so many fucking clips of OnlyFans, but never had an account. I'm so freaking curious. I need to create an account. But I did some real work today. I actually talked about the company you guys work for. I had
nice.
A big investment bank want to do some due diligence and see if they want to invest in you guys. So they spoke to me for an hour and they're now going all in on Bitcoin instead.
Sound advice.
It was quite weird actually, because his closing question, once you'd done all the bullshit business stuff, it was he went, so which I liked it because it's the whole don't trust what people say, trust what they do with their money. So he asked, do you still have your GBG shares? And I went and I said, no, I don't. But that's purely based on my risk tolerance. I'm a bit of a high risk kind of guy. So yeah, I sold them all years ago, and I've gone all into higher yielding investments that I think get a better return for. He's like, oh, just out of interest, like what? And I was like, well, Bitcoin. And he went, tell me more. And the next 15 minutes, I was shilling in Bitcoin, and he works for a big investment bank. And so who knows? We might have have a new hodler on the books that may have a bit of loose money knocking around and got some rich mates as well. So
interesting.
Investment banks are sniffing around Bitcoin at the moment, though.
Yeah, so funnily enough, I've just got a message and I haven't been able to research it before about a guy called Peter Thiel, and they're making a crypto exchange called Bullish. And
Peter Thiel?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
That's one of Elon Musk's co-founders for PayPal.
Yeah.
That's pretty big.
I'll be 2 seconds, I'll be back in.
You should have picked the name because I'm round about that stage when it was, what was it, X.com?
That's what, yeah. That's
I'm just listening to it on Audible at the moment, and I'm just up to that stage, but I didn't pick my name then. And it's made me love Elon a bit more. Like, really interesting to learn about him.
Oh, yeah.
With, was it Zip2 and then PayPal, as well as a bit of his background. He's just a bit insane.
Yeah, it's like so often, like you see, when you see some of the backgrounds of, say, a Steve Jobs or Bill Gates, it's relatively normal. Like it's the normal kind of the American type household, got born into a certain amount of money, and then they're obviously super talented, worked really hard, and did really well. But it was all kind of like next to next to next. When you look at Elon's story, and literally being born in South Africa, in a completely crazy place where, you know, racism is the other way around there, where being white is dangerous, being in South Africa, and just the education is awful. And he just decides to he just gets passionate about something and just ups and leaves and like kind of just disappears off to Canada.
He works in a dangerous boiler because it paid him the most before he started university. But what I found most hilarious about him was when he was at school, we thought he was slightly talented, but he wasn't doing very well. And his stepdad or someone said, you realise you will be held back a year if you don't work. So he absolutely hated learning things like Afrikaans. He didn't see the point. So he didn't bother, didn't apply himself. And he was like, oh, so the rest of the year he finished top of his year or whatever it was. In Afrikaans, it's just like, you know, that's the difference between a mere mortal and someone like Elon, who literally can process information like anything. Like he just went, I better learn this, probably read various books, absorbed it all and applied it, and therefore he's the best.
Yeah, I mean that little anecdote there tells you everything you need to know about Elon. Like, number one, he will only take in the information that he sees as valuable. So he just dismissed school and gone, fuck that class because I don't need to know Afrikaans. So he's just gone, I'll focus on the other ones, and probably nailing them. But then he gets pulled up for it and he starts getting crap at home, and he goes, oh right, the benefit of knowing Afrikaans now is I don't get crap at home. That is worth probably an hour of my time. I'll just spend an hour. I'll learn Afrikaans and be fluent by the afternoon. And now I don't get crap from my dad. It's like, yeah, it's just, number one, he's like super good at filtering through the information. But then when he decides it is beneficial, he'll probably just be the best at it within a couple of days. And yeah, I would love to have that ability.
Interesting trait, isn't it? Because you're absolutely right. He did it at a young age and then still plays on it now when he's talking about meetings. And if you don't find any like value out of it, walk out.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. I think that there was a big leaked email from Tesla that when Tesla got to a certain size, I think when it crossed 10,000 people, and there was a whole host of like the Elon rules, pretty much.
That's the one.
It was so good. It was amazing. It's like this is the Bible for business. Like if you get to scale a business up, like this is it. Like he doesn't like meetings from like 5 till 6 or any set hours. Like just set them for random minutes. Like if it's a 17-minute meeting, that's fine. Like if you feel that you've had enough, just walk out. Like no one's allowed to do presentations. Like you're not allowed to invite more than 5 people in the meeting. Like there's no acronyms. And Jesus,
no silly acronyms.
Yeah, and especially seeing you're working for a crazy technical company like a Tesla or a SpaceX, it's very tempting to suddenly like, oh yeah, working on the AGB that works with their IRC on the ID3. That you keep, and if you've worked there for 10 years, you're keeping up. But everyone new is just like, what the fuck's going on? And he's like, we don't want to be training everyone up. This subject matter is already complicated enough without creating our own language inside the company that newcomers have to navigate. And yeah, we've worked in the same company, how many 3-letter acronyms do you guys probably say on a daily basis? It's just constant.
It's also it's not just the acronyms, it's the terminology as well.
Yeah.
Terminology which is only relevant to the company which I work for rather than the whole market. And they thought they'd come up with something clever to name something, but can be interpreted as something to describe a particular group or behaviors of someone. It's just like, yeah, it's a bit silly.
Yeah.
And then there's the meeting. I really like that about the fact the meetings be 17 minutes long, because when I get invited to a meeting, it's an hour. It's not half an hour. You know, for me, I try and do half an hour, because half an hour is blast of information, Q&A, finish. It's quick unless you have to go into detail. Whereas I get invited to these meetings for an hour and you're sitting there kind of going, after the first 10 minutes, okay, I've got my information. Why are we talking? And then it keeps on going on. And they want to fill the time of the hour. And it's just like, If you finish before, finish. It's done. But yeah, I think people have got this false impression of what meetings are actually for.
Well, yeah, they say it's Parkinson's law or something like that. Time expands. So you will naturally just try to fill it.
Yeah.
Talking of which as well, because I've shared our podcast with a few people and they're like, oh my God, like 3 hours. And again, I'm like, yeah, unashamedly long on the bullish, on Bitcoin and us being bullish, and also about Bitcoin itself. But some of my favorite shows are long, and I asked them obviously if they ever watched Joe Rogan's show, and then also Drink Champs as well. So I'm a big hip hop fan, and basically it's talking about any artist that has been in the game for 10, 15 years and onwards, that they celebrate them whilst they're alive. So it's kind of like one of those things where I would love for us to have, where they all get round together. There's every type of alcoholic drink that's there, and they're smoking, they're drinking, and just talking about their life and their journey all in one, but then celebrating how well that person's done whilst alive, as opposed to them being dead. Pretty good show. Drink Champs. Been going for a couple of years, but unashamedly long, 2-3 hours easily.
Yeah, what's it called again?
Drink Champs.
Drink Champs. Okay, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Certainly. So yeah, some good guests on there.
See, I don't listen to many podcasts. Like, I haven't got into the habit of it. Like when I'm doing certain things, gym or cooking or generally like tidying up things, I'll listen to Audible at the moment.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like my space filler when I'm working. I won't listen to anything like Audible because I think it's too much of a distraction. So it'll be music, something which just goes in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, weirdly, that's what I'm not a big music fan. I don't really know why. It just never really just resonates with me. But Joe Rogan, that's what I used it as background, because I think if you sit down and watch a 3 or 4 hour Joe Rogan podcast, like there's not enough sometimes to like keep you 100% entertained, because it is just 2 or 3 guys having a chat. So I tend to be doing something, and it's like you've got your mates in the room, and sometimes it might be a high level physicist, sometimes an MMA fighter. It's just, and the conversation is undoubtedly interesting, but you can dip in and out of it. It's not like highly condensed kind of material. And that's the problem with something like Audible. If you have that on in the background, it's a book, and that's been edited down. And if you just dip out for 10 minutes and come back, you might have lost your place. But in a conversation that Joe Rogan has, and I think that we have, I think you could have this on in the background. And if you dip out for 10 minutes and then just come back, you're not going to be lost. It's just a chat. And you might have missed the odd little nugget of information, but it's not going to kill you. It's not like there's a storyline here. We kind of just bundle around and chat shit for a couple of hours. So it doesn't really matter where you come in and come out.
That's why I really like Patrick B. David as well, and his valuetainment, because he's started that kind of round table feel as well. One lady who I really like, Daniela Booth, I think her name is, she actually used to work at the US Fed, and she is so against the Fed, it's unbelievable. She's got a book called Fed Up, and she talks about her time there And she's just like, America, come on, wake up. You know, this national debt that's at 27 trillion right now, and up, and we're printing more money. And China is, you know, playing a fantastic strategic game right now in terms of the gold that they're storing and the way that we're buying everything and owing them more money. And it's just amazing because she is an economist, but talking in the real sense, and really, really passionate about people and how they can better themselves. So that's where I got the whole McDonald's are paying people $50, because she was just like, you know, America, we need jobs, not $50 interviews.
What do you say? Fed up? It's called
FED up. Yeah, fed up.
And that's Danielle Martino.
That's the one. Danielle Martino. Yeah.
I'll add it to my list. That sounded quite good.
Yeah.
We've got our homework already. Yeah, Danielle's
like, and she's got a little own like podcast, like little side hustle as well, where she just talks about economic things. And then there was a guy who again was on there, and he talks about strategy, and because he was once in the army, and he talks about how the army kind of like placed it. I say the army, it's probably like a real general major. Again, I'll pull his name up, maybe we'll put him in the show notes or something. And yeah, he's got his own kind of spin-off from that whole round table. But yeah, it's all going back to these types of shows where you can just have it on in the background, because you don't necessarily need to look at them, which to your point, Gaz, when you talk about Joe Rogan, I can just listen. I don't need to see him and guess. It's just easy listening.
Yeah, maybe I'll try at some point, listen to some podcasts along those lines.
Yeah. So it's not obviously via YouTube, but yeah, I don't need to see everything. When I'm doing boring, monotonous stuff or forecast where I can just have it on in the background.
What you should be saying is you love forecasts. It's your bread and butter.
Yeah.
Hat tip to the MD there.
Yeah.
He's no doubt listening at this point.
I love that forecast. Yeah.
So where do we want to get started with the topics? I think one which you raised, Gaz, was about laser eyes, because I thought it was quite an easy topic.
Yeah.
So who's your favorite celebrity Bitcoiner, or favorite celebrity Bitcoiner with laser eyes?
Yeah, well, weirdly, that is Mark's topic. He's the one that raised that one, and he's not even here. But yeah, so that,
just point out last minute pull out.
yeah. I bet you wish you did that a couple of years ago as well. This is what happens when you're not here. When you're not here, you get dunked on. It's just that is the rule.
Yeah, but I just get abuse when I'm here, though.
Yeah, well, you're just you're rough. That's why.
Colin Doctor.
So my favorite celeb, I was thinking about it because Mark brought it up, and so mine's Zuby, because he's a British rapper, got like 100,000 followers on Twitter, and I like his opinions. I share quite a lot of his views. Not a fan of his music, but that's not any offense to him. I don't like a lot of music, and his is the rap type stuff. So yeah, it's not my cup of tea, but I love his Twitter account. And so I've been following him for probably the last couple of years, I think, since he got into Bitcoin. Once he got orange pilled, he then really became noticed in the Bitcoin space. And then I actually did his laser eyes. So I got his profile picture, put laser eyes on it, and then I kept commenting on every tweet. And eventually he saw it, changed his profile picture, and followed me back. So I contributed to his laser eyes. So I'm picking Zuby.
Nice. How do you spell his name?
Zuby.
Here's a really good tweet by him. So this is one which I retweeted. You have to wear a mask at work because you could be sick but asymptomatic, and you should be able to take the day off work for the same reason. Love that.
Yeah, he loves he nearly got cancelled during all the gender pronoun stuff about a year ago. I think he ventured into stating his opinion one way or the other, basically saying pronouns are nonsense. I think he actually did say, someone's an idiot on Twitter when they've got their pronouns listed, and that obviously triggered the whole pronoun freaking cancel culture group. So they came for him, and I think some transsexual guy or girl, I don't know which way round it was, commented and insulted him. And all he replied with was, "Okay, dude." And they kicked off and went, have you just misgendered me? Because I think it was a woman, and he said, "Dude," and it blew up. This whole thing blew up. So, and they were trying to cancel him, and he's like, "I'm an independent artist. Like, I know I'm on Twitter. Like, what the fuck?" And so he ended up playing it completely in his own favor. He's got a whole line of merch now of "Okay, dude." So. But I think it was during that controversy that I saw him and went, "Oh, I like this guy. He pokes them," and like that's me. I like poking them. So
it was when he did his world record deadlift, which made me laugh. When he said, "I just before he did it, he did a video. He said, I currently identify as female," and then he pulled the deadlift. He's like, "That's beating the world record."
Yeah,
I think his whole point was about making fun of trans. It was the whole point about competition in sport.
Yeah.
So as a male, you have years of testosterone building muscle. So for him to get the deadlift versus someone else, versus someone who's been a woman all the years, it's just not fair, because he will have more developed muscles, even if he has changed gender recently.
Yeah.
Because there's been one which has come in through the news, like a New Zealand weightlifter into the Olympics. They've allowed it, and my immediate response is, you're going to see some world records be broken.
That transsexual who was a world, I think he was about 20th in the men's weightlifting, and then he's transitioned. So he was about 20th. So it means he's a very strong guy originally. I'm misgendering him now, and I actually feel scared. I don't even know why I feel scared, but he was. Yeah, so he's like 20.
That's it. The pod's cancelled before we've even started. Okay.
Yeah, he was like 20th in the world in the men's. He's transitioned to the women's. So he's already setting world records, but at a relatively low level at the moment, because a lot of his records, I don't think, are counted yet, because he's not been fully accepted. But yeah, he's going through the process at the moment that she is going to be accepted into the Olympics, and she's going to beat him, but it's not even going to be slightly close. It's like he can lift nearly double what the women can do, and it's just.
There's one allowed into MMA, someone who transitioned in MMA. Didn't I hear? She broke 2 skulls.
Yeah,
is that correct?
Yeah, it's happened in MMA. Yeah, and it was. Yeah,
they said the first one out, it just happened, then it happened exactly the same thing the second time. Like, that's not coincidence, is it?
No, MMA is a super dangerous sport.
No.
It's very dangerous, because at least when you're doing weightlifting and stuff, you're going to get your achievements taken away from you as a woman, and some guys that's going to come in and smash with the records. But at least you're not getting hurt. In MMA, that's serious. That's fighting, and you're going in there with someone that is just like, men are just built differently. Like, we've got tens of thousands of years of being a hunter and fighting each other, and women have largely bear children, and the men look after them. That's evolution. And undoubtedly there's some very, very strong women out there, and I've only got to look at the MMA roster. I would get smashed to pieces by every single woman on that roster. I do not deny it. But if you take any guy from the MMA roster and go fight a woman, it's not even going to be a competition. It's just going to be a complete demolition. And it's why we don't mix that sport. It's not to be mixed. And yeah, this whole trans debate where everyone's trying to be super woke and go equal opportunity for everyone, you can transition into anything. It's like, largely I agree with it, but until you start fighting, that's just too far, because people are going to get really, really hurt.
I don't know what the solution is for sports, but I don't know if it needs to be a third category or what. It just doesn't seem to make sense.
Tech and tag, mixed genders, like Wimbledon.
Oh yeah, mixed doubles.
But that's it. You think about weightlifting. Is it unfair on all the women who've trained for years?
Yeah, of course it is.
They'll never be able to hit that level, and that's not being transphobic or whatever. It is biology.
It'll be just about every sport. Yeah. Every sport that is physical, like it can be any athletics, football. Because that was the thing. We always saw the meme, surely, of James Rodriguez and when he was out, and people were memeing that he was transitioning to a woman. And there was some very dodgy pictures going around my WhatsApp groups of James Rodriguez with the full transition has already happened, and then people are already mocking up. It's like, oh, next season James Rodriguez is going to score like 480 goals and win like the Premier League for freaking Coventry, because you can't put James Rodriguez in the freaking women's league. Like, come on, that just wouldn't be fair. Like, he's a class player. Like, it doesn't work. Like, you can't put men into women's sport. You just can't.
Okay, so do we want to move on? Darnell, who's your... Oops, sorry.
It might come though, won't it? Because of this woke culture and also this cancel culture. And it's interesting because Jay-Z said that cancel culture is here to stay, he believes. So, yeah, I think...
They're in the White House, so...
Yeah.
So
sorry,
Darnell, who's your favorite celebrity Bitcoiner laser eye kind of representation?
Wow. We were talking about him just the other day, weren't we, Gaz? I was just trying to remember from our conversation where, if he is, I don't know if I can like him.
Who's this?
Was it Jake Paul?
Oh my God, you can't. No, Jake Paul number.
Well,
I sent you it, didn't I? Because he.
We just like cancel it.
Not that I like him.
We were talking about transitioning, so we basically ruined the pod, and then we've just had him mention Jake Paul. Are we just like canning it this episode?
That's worth cancelling Darnell for, if that's your favorite celeb. Yeah, he hasn't got laser eyes. He just put out that tweet, didn't he? Going, I want to get into cryptocurrency. Who should I speak to? And I sent you. I screenshotted it and I sent it to you and went, oh, it looks like Jake Paul's coming. So,
well, another interesting one, because I don't think I really have a favorite celebrity laser eye like Bitcoiner. But an interesting one was obviously this morning with Mark Zuckerberg and the two goats, Max and Bitcoin, because I don't think, and you know, this is just my opinion, correct me if I'm wrong, but like when Elon tweeted about Bitcoin, there was a buzz around it. Whereas I don't really feel like there's much or the same buzz around Zuckerberg, but he is just as, if not even more powerful and influential than Elon or anybody else, because of the 2 billion people that use Facebook daily. And obviously everything that goes around Facebook ads, etc., etc. So that's an interesting one for me.
I didn't know it was a joke, and I was also thinking about the max bit. Is it Bitcoin max? I'm maxed out on Bitcoin. Is that the whole thing behind it? And I was just like, no one likes Zuckerberg, so I think that's it.
They don't.
A lot of people admire Elon Musk because he's making the world better. I'd say that Zuckerberg made the world worse.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a lot of influence, though, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's made a platform which basically makes everyone's opinions louder when no one wants to know their opinion.
I mean, could you imagine, like, because I don't use it personally, Facebook, but I use Instagram, and I say I use it, I scroll through it. And then, of course, we talked about WhatsApp as well. Could you imagine a world without Facebook?
Be glorious.
Yeah. I think like 10 years ago, I think I would have probably struggled a little bit with that. But now it's, I wouldn't even notice. I don't use any of those products now. Those 3 products you just listed. Especially the WhatsApp one was the one I used the most. But then 10 years ago, actually, it wasn't owned by Facebook 10 years ago. So
correct.
They've corrupted that one in the last couple of years, haven't they? So I must admit, when I saw that tweet from Mark, I was the same as you. I thought, even though people don't like Mark, it doesn't really matter. It's just he's very wealthy. So when a very wealthy person tweets something, and that suggests he's either bought Bitcoin or is buying it, and then obviously, especially with all the big businesses putting a hedge of their treasury into Bitcoin, if a Facebook was going to do that, them putting a couple of billion in would not be a big decision for them. You know, they've got like 100 billion just sat there. So
Yeah.
I fully expected, when I saw that tweet go out last night, I fully expected to wake up in the morning with 20% on the Bitcoin price once that news had kind of regurgitated around Twitter. But I think I woke up to a 5% dip. I was like,
Yeah.
people really hate that fucking Mark Zuckerberg guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think he might be going down as like what's it, like a Ted Turner style, you know. I think whilst he's created, so I think Ted Turner was, or the Murdochs, let's say, you know, they created a great empire, but not necessarily well liked.
Yeah, well, you can go multiple ways, can't you? Because when the SEC and governments come after you, it depends what you do. And with Mark, he's just bent over, giving them everything, and he sold his customers up down the river. You know, he's mined their data. He's very obvious that he's just doing this for power, for control, and just influence. Whereas when you've got an Elon, he has a mission, and his customers love him. You won't find a single person that owns a Tesla that does not love Elon. Find me a person who has a Facebook account that loves Mark Zuckerberg. Probably won't find one. And then when the SEC and governments come after Elon, what does he do? He memes the fuck out of them. He tells them to fuck off. And he's just a legend. Like, he will buckle to as many things. If it's safety and all that type of stuff, he goes, it's going to be the safest car ever. He follows the rules that he should follow. And then the rules where they overreach and they start going, you can't say this, you can't tweet that. He just goes, go fuck yourself. And people admire that. He's got principles, he's got ethics, and you can just tell, like, he's not in it just for himself. He wants to solve a problem. And if along the way he pisses off some people that he should have probably bowed down to a little bit to get an easier ride, he's like, no, the ride's going to be harder, but I'm going to keep my principles. Whereas Mark would just bend over. They want this, just give it to them. I don't want to get in trouble. And so people admire and I think respect people that have a backbone and have ethics. And Elon's got it, Mark hasn't.
But people do hate Elon, but I think they don't really understand what he's about.
That's just jealousy. People hate rich people.
I don't think it's jealousy. People say he's a narcissist, he's arrogant and all that, but I think
they don't know him.
The comparison to Tony Stark, and I think.
Well, I kind of think like Elon, as you said, he's better in the world. You look at what he's done. So you go back to Zip2. Zip2 was about making an online directory inquiries. So basically navigating, you want a pizza, you can go and buy a pizza. Yeah. PayPal was about making payments easy online and secure. And when you've got Tesla, electric cars, making cars more environmentally friendly. Then you've got SpaceX making space travel. So everything which he's done has been to improve. Whereas Mark Zuckerberg is literally, what have you done? I've connected people. I've also created a generation of narcissists and self-obsessed probably created a lot of mental illness within the world. So
suicides
So you kind of think, what has he done? He has created it's affected people's time preference even worse because they see someone gloating about their car on Facebook. They want it, spending money, taking pictures in Dubai, whatever. So you created ultimately a worse world. Whereas I think Elon he is a flawed genius, but he is going out and out to make the world better. Yeah. I think that's what people don't understand.
I think post Elon, when he's no longer here, then he'll probably get his just due. But right now, he's certainly not. I mean, we should be, I don't just mean this flippantly, like literally worshipping how well he is doing, and what he's doing isn't really being seen like that. It's just seen as a bit of a, eccentric, isn't he?
Yeah. He has managed to outsource rockets for NASA, the only company who's ever managed it, because his tech is better than theirs. That is just says everything about him.
Exactly. Yeah. He has better tech than NASA, and he's only been going for 10 years. And you say a flawed genius,
it's like 60.
Because you say flawed genius, but it's like human beings are flawed. I don't think there's not a single one of us that could be on the platform that he's at and have every single move analyzed and not mess up occasionally. It's like we all do stupid things. We all say stupid things. And like for the things that Elon is essentially being criticized for, and all the people that dislike Elon, when you just ask them why. And so often it's like it's some weird personality trait or something. It's like, no, give me a specific thing that you don't like him for. And they just look at you blank. They don't even know. It's just, I think, and the thing is, like, because there's so much negative media around Elon, but that purely comes from the industries he's disrupting. So by he's embarrassed NASA for the last 20 years, and then he's going after the oil company. Like the oil company rule the world.
And the automotive industry.
Exactly.
He's
those guys
embarrassed the whole of them.
Yeah, because they all came out categorically before he started Tesla and said electric cars do not work. They will never work. They don't scale. It's not possible. No one wants an electric car. And he just went, well, bollocks, I'm going to do it. And yeah, embarrassed them. And they were they knew it was possible, but they were paid off to prove it wrong. So the oil industry could continue, because that's the biggest kind of like market that exists in the world, the petrodollar. And that's what makes the world go round. And he has gone up against them and embarrassed them. So, of course, who owns most of the media and where's it funded from? The oil barons found their money in there some shape or form. So guess what? Tesla, SpaceX, Elon get a hell of a lot of negative press. And people just read the headlines and just think, Elon, bad guy, because I've read enough articles or read the headlines that says that's what he is. And they have no substance. And so all that bad press. But that's why the power of social media, as much as we've just slated it today, is Elon doesn't have to rely on the mainstream media anymore. There's not 5 guys in the world that control what articles get written. Every single person can tweet their own news. And even more importantly, Elon can tweet his own views directly to the people. And every time Elon tweets now, the world watches. And that's so powerful. And I've noticed actually over the last 10 years since Elon has really got into Twitter, I have seen the sentiment move much more towards him, because they actually are learning about the guy now. And of course he's flawed. And we can talk about his freaking Doge coin scamming in a minute, but it's they largely are finding out what he thinks genuinely from the horse's mouth. And now you know him as a guy, not what some editor wrote about him, and which is completely biased by the fact that he's trying to undermine the company that Elon is building. So
yeah,
I think
go on, mate. Go on.
I was just going to say, I think it's safe to say that Elon is everyone's favorite Bitcoiner. Well,
yeah,
he doesn't own it himself, but he's made sure that Tesla has its treasury in Bitcoin.
He owns it now. He's admitted he owns it.
Does he?
Yeah, he when he got questioned by Portnoy the other day, when Tesla sold 10%, he said, I haven't sold any of my Bitcoin. Tesla sold 10% to check liquidity. And he's been asked before how much Bitcoin he had, and he said he's got 0.25 Bitcoin. He went, that's it. I got sent it in a conference one time. That's all I've got. But he got asked again, and he didn't answer. So undoubtedly, over the last 6 months, he has increased that position.
He did. He did talk about he doesn't like Bitcoin, because I don't think he really likes money. It isn't what drives him that much, is it? And he said he doesn't, but he said it's a better solution than fiat.
Yeah.
I think that was his answer to it.
The thing with Elon is that he's such a freaking genius that he just looks at Bitcoin and straight away sees a couple of faults and goes, I'd have engineered it this way. And the thing is, like, most people that come into Bitcoin think that, and they end up proving themselves wrong because no, they're not smarter than Satoshi. Elon, maybe he is. Like, and it's probably like if he had focused more, like, because obviously he was in PayPal as well, so he was already creating the first version of essentially fiat
digital
money.
Yeah.
It's
exactly
moving fiat money into the internet world. I think he already had the idea to go, we probably need to get rid of fiat. Let's just create an internet like native currency. And he's probably got a load of ideas that he probably would have done. And who knows, he probably could have invented Bitcoin, and it may be, maybe a better
But it's
version,
probably things like the distribution as well. That's one of the flaws around Bitcoin, is it's the early ones the early bird gets a worm with Bitcoin.
That's always going to be the case.
Yeah, but that may be one of the flaws which he sees around it. But you will have that kind of build up.
It's impossible to fix unless you're going to be socialist and go, well, I'm going to create some money, and then there's 7 billion people on the planet, and just give everyone a piece. Like, you can do that, but that then straight away people are going to reject the money because they're going to go, well, I want more. And then so actually it wouldn't even work. Let's say you actually do create Bitcoin, and you go, I think it's about 25,000 Satoshis. That's how many everyone can have out of 7 billion people on the planet. Let's just say you do that. And Satoshi did that to all of us guys right now back in 2009. A couple of months later, you get an email from someone going, your Satoshis are currently worth £1 each because Bitcoin's worthless, but I'll give you £100 for your Satoshis. A load of people will go, okay. And they sell them because why not? I've been gifted this junk. What didn't even know I got gifted it. Who's Satoshi? What the hell is Bitcoin? A load of people sell those coins, and you keep going. Like even and I'll try and carry on then. Yeah, so essentially, yeah. So it basically just means that as people are going to give away their Satoshi, so even if it's fair at the beginning, people are going to buy them, and it's even happening right now. Like when Elon and Michael Saylor come on and buy $2 billion each worth of Bitcoin, who sold them that? Someone sold it to them because there's not that much many Bitcoin coming out the network every day. So a load of people gifted them their Bitcoin at between $10,000 and $30,000 a coin. It's now at 50, 60. So they've already lost half of their wealth by selling it to the billionaires. And that's just going to keep going. So I think
we are in the age of consumerism. You know, if we had to classify what we are, it is consumerism. We cheap products, piss our money all against them. So whether it's a shiny car, whether it's the latest iPhone, watch, whatever else, you know, people just want to piss their money at the wall.
Yeah. Go on then, Ross. Who's your favorite celebrity laser?
I just wanted to just go back on one thing as well and say that at the time, I don't believe that Steve Jobs was well liked either. Just going back on the Elon thing. So, and then obviously no longer with us.
He was a bit like Elon in a way.
Absolutely.
People liked him because he's quite an innovator.
100%. I mean, my son, youngest, absolutely is buzzing off Toy Story. You know, he's got all the characters, etc. And, you know, he was involved in that. So therefore he's done the multiple fields things because he smashed, of course, home electronics and computing. And then the way that kids watch films, and obviously Disney jumped on that as well, but he did it through Pixar. So yeah, I definitely believe that he wasn't well liked, and again, another good audible.
Yeah, maybe one to consider, but I've got a fair few to work through now.
Yeah.
So favorite Bitcoiner. I was thinking about this. I did have the easy one written down, which is Elon, but I think that's probably not allowed in our conversation. I mean, Elon he helped push it even more mainstream. The one who I quite like at the moment is Tom Brady, because that really is full mainstream. That was only yesterday.
Yeah.
It's literally, that is a further level in. That is so extreme. That is the whole American public is Tom Brady, the American hero idol, is buying Bitcoin.
The only problem is it's already come out. He's got some type of NFT platform that he's also sponsoring. So he may
dislike him, not him.
He might he might already be saying Bitcoin, but actually building NFT. So because that's the problem with this. Like people say Bitcoin, and then it's like, oh, how many? Like, are you buying Bitcoin? Then he's like, oh no, I'm selling sports cards with my own face on to my fans. It's like, oh right, you're scamming your fans. That's a shame. That's a shame.
So maybe I'll.
This is becoming a big thing, by the way. I think that celebs are actually really, really jumping on. I know you and I covered it in our one and podcast too, but people are definitely jumping on this fact of like, oh, my one of one, only you can get it, and yeah, it's not crypto.
It's a novelty. It's a complete novelty. It is internet pogs. Like, I don't understand any value because it's not unique. People can just print it off. It just seems like an absolute idiotic scheme which will die a death, and people will get really hurt on this. If I can't have him because if he is doing what we think he might be, I'll go for Sean Culkin, the NFL player who gets paid his entire salary in Bitcoin.
Good.
Because I love that, because he's a multimillionaire anyway, and he goes, pay me in Bitcoin. I just went, that is commitment. You know, he doesn't need the money. He's just setting himself up in something which he believes in. So I got a lot of time for that.
You seen that 30 by 30 for 30 documentary where the majority of NFL players go broke after 3 years?
Oh wow.
It's mega
NFL,
money as well.
Yeah, so they go. The reason why, and it comes and linking it back to everything that we talk about, is the high time preference, because they get paid weekly. So they're getting that big, massive wage weekly, and they're not told how to manage that money over a long period of time. And then I think a very high percentage of NBA players, but after 5 years.
There was a stat about the Premiership as well. I think it was mainly the ones around the 1990s when it wasn't mega money. They were getting broke within 5 to 10 years, the majority. Whereas now, because we're on a step above, we've got the top players getting paid 200 grand a week. So what's that? That's 10 million a season, say potentially at the top for 6 years. So you've got 60 million plus all endorsements. So a good footballer can earn 100 million. So it's quite hard to get through that unless you get heavily into cocaine.
You say that though, but 100 million goes very, very fast. If you start buying a couple of yachts, they're 10, 20 million each. You're spending a couple of million on a holiday. You're throwing big parties. You want looking Jay-Z to come to your wedding. That's £1 million on its own. And it's just, and the problem is that, like you said, Daniel, that the time preference is crazy because they are living proper, like the billionaire lifestyle. And they're not billionaires, and also they have very short careers. That, especially I think American football, that they're very short. Like the kind of the kind of injuries you get in that sport are just insane. And obviously the CTE and the brain damage you get as well seems to be super bad. So you're going to have a tough adulthood, and you're essentially retired at like 32, and you've been spending £1 million a month. And when you first retire, it looks fine. I got 100 million there. I've got a lot of months ahead. It's like, well, technically you got 100 months, and that isn't. You're not going to die then. And also, you say it's £1 million a month. Occasionally, you just drop 20 million on a yacht because you're bored. So that's actually, when you look at it, 3 to 5 years worth of money, unless you start slowing down, because the assets you're buying, that yacht you spent 20 million on, its resale value the second you buy it is worth 10 now. You lost 10 mil. So
100%.
It's that money you can really evaporate. Like for the average person, you got 100 million, you buy a nice house, you buy a nice car, you still got 98 million left. But when you're living a P. Diddy lifestyle, 100 million, that's gone in 12 months, man.
I suppose that is true. I think in football, so soccer, I think a lot of the clubs do make sure that the players are sorted, and also it's part of the agent responsibility now to make sure they actually do look after money a bit. Because I know that a lot of footballs are into investment properties, whether in the UK or also Dubai.
Yeah, well, I think that NFL player that you mentioned then, I think he's about mid-range on the pay bracket in the NFL. But over the last 12 months, because he's been paid in Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is 10x, I think he's actually the highest paid NFL football player now because he invested his money. So it's a brilliant lesson. Like his teammates and everyone else in the NFL suddenly realized, like, oh, his pay packet for the year was like 15 mil or something, but he sat on 100 mil. And it's like, well, how have you done that? It's like, well, I invested it, instead of putting it into dollars, where my 15 mil has the spending power of 13 mil now, I invested it into sound money. And now it has the spending power of 100 million. And it's just, that's the kind of lesson everyone needs to see. And it's like, they just follow that example. It's just,
it's not just the investment. I think, he's got to have a fairly good brain on him. He's got to understand Bitcoin to do it in the first place. So he's had either, fairly intelligent, or he's got someone around him who has talked him into it, into doing the right thing.
No, he's a very smart guy. He's a very smart guy, because I've seen all the shitcoiners all over his Twitter. And a couple of times I've seen him just go, "I'm Bitcoin, no shitcoin." So
I like it.
He's not just
so smart because he doesn't like shitcoin.
Well, it's like, it just shows there's a level of intelligence, because I think you have to have gone down the rabbit hole quite far to even know to say that. It's when you first get in and you're just following someone's advice, you just do it, and then someone comes along, and this is the thing. It's like what we said last time. He's just doing it for the gains. So you're going, oh, but put it in Bitcoin. But then if someone comes along and goes, oh, Dogecoin goes up faster, then if you haven't got it, you're like, oh, right, yeah, you're right. I should save in Dogecoin now because the gain's a bit better for the last 2 months. But that just means you haven't got it. Like you're investing here for 10, 20, 50 years. You're not doing it for the last 2 months. So that is, you can just tell when you follow that guy's tweets, he just gets it. He's a Bitcoiner. The shitcoiners bounce off. It doesn't even hit him. They think he's an easy target because he's a celebrity and he's a footballer. He's probably a bit stupid. He's not. He's proper switched on, intelligent guy. He gets Bitcoin, got paid in Bitcoin. And you can just tell he's holding it. He's not going to be spending that on yachts and all that stuff. He's doing it for legacy. He's doing it for his entire generation after generation. He's going to pass down that Bitcoin. You can just tell. And it's great to have people like him that are right on the front lines. And unfortunately, I don't think Tom Brady is going to be one of them.
Yeah.
Well, we kind of going into Dogecoin. I hate calling it Dogecoin. Just call it Doggy Coin because it is a pile of shit. In the news today, I saw something come up on my phone saying Dogecoin rockets after Elon announces that cars can be bought in Dogecoin. So I was just like, what's it rocketed to? I've just had a quick look now. Its all-time high today was 50 cents from 45, and it had plummeted after the SNL from 71 cents. So it hasn't rocketed. It went back up slightly, but I think everyone has just gone, that was probably the height, and all the big holders must have just gone, that's it. I just can't see it surviving. Like, I was looking at some stats earlier.
As quick as it's here, it'll always be as quick as it's gone.
Yeah, I looked at, well, what's the current supply? 129.5 billion coins. How many? So it's basically it's basically Bitcoin code, but with inflation, isn't it? So it's decentralized, but it's not a limited amount of coins. So it's 100.
It's not decentralized though. The code doesn't make it decentralized. The amount of nodes, how many people run the code, makes it decentralized. So Dogecoin could be decentralized, but that means tens of thousands of people need to see value in it and mine it. Like there's like 100 miners of Dogecoin, whereas there's tens of thousands in Bitcoin.
So 129.5 billion coins, and then it inflates every year by 5.256 billion. So that's 14.4 million coins per day. So I think you've got to think about that one. And the person who invented
the average person won't think. They'll just read.
Yeah, they're just going, we've done this in the past about stocks, so haven't we? Where we kind of gone, oh, this stock go firing up. Someone said, oh, I've got a good tip about this. Invest in this company. I've lost God knows how much now in tips. And I've, my kind of like ethos around this, put £50 in. If it's going to really fly, you can get £50 up to whatever and put it into Bitcoin. But if it doesn't, it's only £50. Whereas the owner for this made it as a meme. That's the most important thing. He made it as a joke. And when it went up a bit, he sold it to buy a car, a Honda, so legend says. And now Dogecoin as a whole is worth more than Honda.
The problem is the problem is this guy, like, he left Twitter to avoid this, and because he just couldn't stop couldn't handle it, because I think Dogecoin did get to like 100 million or 200 million, and he did it as a joke. And he, like you said, he sold all his Dogecoin, and he had billions of the things, and bought a car with it, and he couldn't handle it when Dogecoin. This was back in 2016. He rage quit because he would have had hundreds of millions then. And he quit and left because he just couldn't face it anymore. He just can't even stand Bitcoin because it's constantly that nagging thing of, I've lost 200 million. And now everyone in the world is talking about stupid Dogecoin. It's come and found him again. And now he hasn't just thrown away a couple of 100 million. He's thrown away tens of billions. And I just can't even comprehend how gutted this guy is right now.
He's like the Dominic Sinclair of the crypto world. And you won't know who Dominic Sinclair is until you Google Dominic Sinclair, and then you'll be like, oh yeah, that guy. So yeah,
is he the one that left the Beatles or something?
No. New Year's Eve. and the infamous steps. I'll leave you to Google it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got so much homework after this, Dan. You're giving me so much
Yeah.
work. Should we go into some technical stuff?
Yeah.
Around Bitcoin.
So you want to talk about was it Taproot and Lightning Network?
Yeah. I've come to this on purpose, not like researching anything. So when you talk about it, I'll be listening.
On purpose.
Yeah. To kind of listen to think if I can get it. Because obviously I research everything else ready.
I've had a good look around. I think, Gaz, you posted an article about Taproot a week or two ago. Or was it maybe someone else? And I had a good read of it. But
yeah, I didn't write one. I might have liked it or commented.
Yeah, you shared it. You didn't write it, but you shared it.
Yeah.
So I had a read of that and kind of went, I'll talk about what I know because it's not a lot, which will then lead on to you, which is basically it's the next stage of evolution. It hasn't been accepted into Bitcoin. So it's got to be 90% of nodes accept it, whereas for the initial check, barely, I think it's 25% did, but we got until August.
Yeah, correct. So, yeah, I think we're on about 40 now. Yeah.
40%. So let's say it's the next stage of evolution. It's increased privacy, but not absolute privacy. It's lower fees, more flexibility, and it'll boost Lightning. So it'll make the transactions going through a Lightning network cheaper. But I'm struggling to get beyond that. Like I haven't really managed to piece the bits together.
Yeah, no, you're pretty much right. Yeah. So it's basically, they're just overall improvements. So Taproot specifically is designed to, it was mainly focused on helping scalability of Bitcoin. So it truncates the amount of information needed for each transaction. It leaves quite a lot of room left in the block, which means you can get more transactions into the block, which then means more transactions. The block fee is the same. So transaction fees will go down. It helps the scalability. But bundled in is some further privacy. So you can't track where all these transactions are coming from and going to as easily. So the classic example for that is, it probably leads on to actually something called CoinJoin. Have you ever heard about CoinJoin?
I've heard the name, but I don't know anything.
No.
Essentially what CoinJoin is it's a way of cleaning your Bitcoin. And the reason why you need to clean it is this horrible thing called KYC and AML in the world. The worst companies fucking ever. These fucking government bootlicking companies create this KYC AML bullshit.
They must have some horrendous head of products who have worked for them.
Yeah, exactly. Scum. Yeah, last week's podcast gave me nightmares when I thought about it in the tax.
Yeah, so essentially the problem with Bitcoin is that it has no privacy built in as standard. So if you go to a KYC exchange, which is where most people do, they buy their Bitcoin, and then you take custody of that Bitcoin. But the problem is that's the powers that be, the police, the authorities, they know the Coinbase, Kraken, Gemini, they know all those wallets. So they have somewhere to go. So once you've sent your Bitcoin to your wallet and you start making transactions from your wallet, a lot of them can be completely legitimate, but let's say one of them isn't. Let's say one of those transactions is not legitimate at all. Let's say you're buying some drugs from your local dealer down the road. And then one day he gets nicked. So they grab him, they get hold of his Bitcoin wallet, and they take a look at all the incoming transactions into his Bitcoin wallet. One of them that they decide to do the bunny hopped backwards on is your transaction. So they take that transaction, the Bitcoin you sent him, it goes into your wallet that is maybe on your ledger, on your hard wallet, nice and safe. They have no clue who owns that. But then they bunny hop back one more, and that goes straight into the Coinbase wallet. So they now send a warrant into Coinbase and go, on this time and date, this amount of Bitcoin from this address, from your address to this address happened. Who owns that account? They will pull out your passport and driving license and go, here you are, Mr. Police Officer. You're nicked. So that's the downside of where Bitcoin is right now. So the way to get around that, for anyone listening that may want to do an illicit transaction at any point and has bought their Bitcoin on an exchange, and the worst thing you can think is that you are safe. Do not think you are safe immediately. Just because it's on your ledger and you send it around a couple of times, every transaction is freaking visible on the blockchain. It's right there. And if it's come from your KYC'd account, assume the police are watching, because they could be, if they can be bothered tracking you at one point. The way to get around it is something called CoinJoin. And essentially the CoinJoin product, you take your Bitcoin and you throw it into a pool of other Bitcoins, while a load of other people are coin joining as well. So essentially it's a load of transactions. They go into this pool, and essentially what happens is they get sent round and round and round hundreds of times, loads of transactions. They break them up into big pieces, small pieces. Essentially, they completely muddle where the transaction even started now. And then you get a nice lot of clean transactions out the back end. And now this is clean. Now, if you have this Bitcoin in this new wallet, there's no way of tracking it back, because essentially there's this big ball of mess that
someone has to follow to then...
Yeah, which is virtually impossible. It's you probably could do it, but basically what it brings in is plausible deniability, because now you can't categorically prove the Bitcoin that popped out here went through all the way through here and popped out there, and there's just too many outcomes. Like it would be like going through a shredder and like shredding the Bible, trying to put it back together. Like, good luck.
I think for this as well, it's also relevant to people of Turkey and other countries similar. If you want to lose your Bitcoins.
Yeah. It's a very, very, very good way of doing it. Yeah. Because, if you leave it in that initial wallet, they do know you still got it.
Yeah. Because we ever come in a situation where the government decides to make Bitcoin illegal, I think I'd do that. But it's a risk of using CoinJoin.
Yes.
Yeah. So CoinJoin was made with this in mind as well. So it's not just a happy accident. It was made in mind where you can clean your Bitcoin and therefore get away from, I guess, knowing that that transaction links back to you.
Yeah.
Or coins.
It was an additional. Yeah, it's an additional product built on top of Bitcoin, because Bitcoin, it's got a number of problems. Satoshi was brilliant, but it doesn't scale to the level it needs to scale at, and it wasn't private. So the privacy and scalability are the things people are working on. Now,
it wasn't really thought to scale, I guess, to that level initially.
To be fair to him, he actually did say these are issues, but you have to fix them. It's the code's ready. Like, geez, I can't do everything for you boys. Like, you have to do something. So, but yeah, the problem with CoinJoin, because you raise a good point there, Ross, and go, because the problem is, what they can tell has happened to this transaction is that it has been CoinJoined. What can happen, and it's the big exchanges haven't done it, but in the smaller ones, and especially in places like Turkey and Venezuela, if you do send a CoinJoined Bitcoin back to the exchange, because it's being CoinJoined, they may suspect something bad has happened with it and may flag your account. So why Taproot is so important, and this is one of the reasons why it increases privacy. One of the things Taproot does once it's activated is you can now no longer tell something's been CoinJoined. So you can clean up your Bitcoin and they never know. So all the surveillance companies at the moment that are working with all the big exchanges, they're flagging CoinJoined transactions when they come into the exchange, and they're going, we don't know whether this coin is a dirty coin that has come from Silk Road or from some drug dealing at some point, but the fact it's been CoinJoined means have some suspicion. After Taproot, that's gone.
So to use Taproot, do you have to install some kind of app?
No. Everyone gets it as standard. Yeah, the network will be updated, and then when you start sending transactions, it will go through Taproot. Yeah.
Go ahead.
When I buy my coins off an exchange, am I buying it off the exchange, or am I getting a new coin that is fresh?
You're moving the coins from one address to another address, but it's the same coins.
So no, but if I've got the money
you're a newbie.
to buy. I'm a newbie. I'm coming into the space. I'm buying a fraction of a coin, or I've got the ability to buy a full coin, Bitcoin, of course, no shitcoin. Then am I buying a brand new coin, brand spanking new? Okay,
well, so you might have different scenarios. We've got people who sell into exchanges, then do the exchanges also buy off miners?
Exactly.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
this is where I was going.
Oh, okay.
Because therefore, maybe I've picked up as a newbie, I've picked up a coin that has already gone through all of this, and then therefore I'm an innocent party. Like, it's like having fiat money that might have traces of drugs on them.
Yeah.
I've not done anything, but it's obviously got that from a third party.
Yeah, the good thing is that you're spot on. It's like, because the thing is that there undoubtedly are going to be some dirty coins that end up in exchanges, definitely, and then you may buy them. The good thing will be all the big exchange wallets are known. So the fact that you got some Bitcoin from that big wallet, completely, that's plausible deniability right there. Because I didn't know, right? You're buying from an official third party. You went into the bank and then they gave you a wad of money that happened to be in Pablo Escobar's dungeon like 2 weeks ago. So you didn't know. But if you didn't get it from the bank and you ended up with that same lump of money from someone on the street, now you're in trouble. So that's the difference.
We just don't need another scenario where people are scared to then buy into the space because they're like, oh, and then such and such it's dirty money, or I'm picking up dirty coins and therefore I don't want anything to do with it because they could take it back off me and won't accept it on such and such an exchange.
What are the chances of you having dirty Bitcoin versus dirty cash? I reckon there's a higher chance of you having dirty cash.
Standard.
Yeah. So I think it's just nonsense peddled by mass media hysteria.
It is. And if anything, all this is doing, the developers are just keeping one step ahead. So they're looking at the attacks, and so a big part of Bitcoin is the tokens need to be fungible. So, and it's why it's funny when you got NFTs like non-fungible tokens, because each token is different. With Bitcoin, you want them to be fungible, which essentially just means every token and every coin is the same value. Doesn't matter what someone did with it last time, it's still worth the same. So that is why it's so important, because you can track too much of the history of a Bitcoin. Then there's a concern that in the future, when regulation and the governments do really start clamping down, that Bitcoin does lose some of its fungibility if coins have gone through certain things. So that's why when we put some just level of privacy over the top of it, you just remove any of the slight gray area that the regulators are trying to put onto Bitcoin and go, oh no, this coin came from here, or you coin joined it. It's like, it's none of your business. Let's just remove that bit of data from the coins. Let's obscure it. And then each coin is essentially just, it's legit, it's Bitcoin, you can check it on the blockchain, but you don't necessarily know exactly where it came from, because you don't need to know. It's just, it's legit Bitcoin. That's as far as it needs to go.
So using Taproot to do the transaction, it's still Bitcoin miners are checking, using algorithms and whatever, checking the transactions valid using the same structure. It's just the fact they cut down the IDs, they truncate them. Is that what you're saying? Yeah,
there's some truncation, and then there's also some form of, I think it's either the encryption. They've slightly edited that. So they truncated it, which gets to scaling. There's less data in each block. And then they've also slightly changed the encryption to add the privacy element as well. Is the combination of those two things.
So it's basically by truncating, they're reducing the packet size and making it a bit quicker.
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense. And then throw that into Lightning. So this is one which I've read about numerous different times, and it's basically just, my interpretation might be wrong, so Gaz, correct me, is you've got Bitcoin, which is your gold, you've got Lightning Network, which is your cash, and it's basically creating a second layer money network, but it's using smart contracts in there, so ultimately a different way of checking the transactions within those coins, which is a bit quicker. And then that kind of connects back into Bitcoin where it checks it, but slower, because you pay more for a transaction if you want to check quicker on Bitcoin. So
no, I think. Oh right. I just. Well, I suppose it depends what you want. Yeah, it's like the settlement layer. Yeah. So you can pay more because the thing is, if you fast forward, like the fees on Bitcoin to send Bitcoin around, if you fast forward to $1 million of Bitcoin, then to send a normal transaction, it's probably going to be £1,000 to send a transaction. That's just going to be what it scales to, because that's the level of security the network needs. So that's completely unfeasible for the average person to be doing that. Nearly everyone would be priced out of that type of transaction. So you need a layer 2, and essentially what it does really is it's another layer. It's not as secure, and essentially it batches transactions. So it's another layer.
Okay.
They happen, but what they do is they batch tens, if not hundreds of thousands of transactions, and they just kind of group them together with the barest of information. They don't have the full transaction in there, and they go, look, it's basically just Bitcoin moving from here to here, and they kind of have the totals, and they wait until all the transactions have happened. They just sum them up and go, all the blockchain needs is this information. They don't need to know all the routing data that the blockchain normally needs. We just need to update the balances. So once Lightning has done its thing and a load of channels are being opened and a load of transactions have happened and hundreds of thousands of them have, every 10, 20 minutes, they'll go back to the blockchain and go, this is what's just happened. And they'll send like 10 transactions in instead of 100,000 of them and cement those transactions there.
That makes sense.
So there's a period of time where the transaction that has gone between me and you might think you've got it in Lightning, but I might jump into my Bitcoin and do a layer 1 transaction that moves all my Bitcoin away. And then the money that I sent you in Lightning might not be there now, which is why if you're going to do that, if you're going to scam people like that, you're going to probably do it for high value goods. So I'm not going to buy a $5 from you and then scam you out of a $5. What's the point in that?
I don't know. If we went to shops, I know people who would.
Yeah, well, I suppose potentially. It's just going to be quite a lot of work to like scam, like do it in Lightning and then quickly move it from here. And by and large, Lightning is even, I think, to be honest, I'm saying this now, it might even be wrong, because I'm probably basing my analysis on Lightning from about 2 years ago, where that was there. But they lock up quite a lot of the money, and they pause it now, and I think they reserve the Bitcoin.
So I was going to say my interpretation would be there's like a pause almost with the smart contracts.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't know, like literally I've just read it. I've never done it, so it doesn't really stick in my mind. But the batching is probably the bit which I was missing, because I think
that'd be one for us to come back to.
Because I read micropayment channels to scale, and they just said batching. I would have gone there.
Yeah, I know. It's always the problem. Yeah, it's made obviously like within my app and Bitcoin lessons, I'm paying out just a couple of Satoshis. Sometimes I'm paying out between 100 Satoshis and say 45,000 Satoshis, which in pounds is anything from 10p to about £15. If I was sending that on the main network on layer 1, I can't send 5p on layer 1 because the transaction fee is at least £1. So yeah, Lightning has enabled that, and it's been great because there's a load of people that have completed Bitcoin lessons. They want their Satoshis at the end of it, and I go, well, I can't send you your 15 pence worth of Satoshis in Bitcoin because it's going to cost me £1 to send it to you. So open up a Lightning wallet and I'll send it to you there. And they've been downloading these Lightning wallets, and it works differently actually. The big difference of Lightning is that in Bitcoin, I just need your address. And once I've got your address, I can just send you Bitcoin whenever you want, and you can send me Bitcoin whenever I want. In Lightning, that doesn't work that way. You don't really have an address. Instead, you send invoices. So you would have to go into your app and send me an invoice for the amount of money that you want. Once you've sent me that, I can then pay the invoice. So it works the other way around. It's a little bit weird. Instead of me just sending you Bitcoin, you have to request it, and then I send it.
Yeah, so it's
that's interesting.
Yeah. Put it into a shop environment. It's almost like they ring up on the till, they produce a QR code, you scan it, and it kind of activates this process.
Yeah,
it's probably the easiest way to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because in the Bitcoin world, you just kind of walk up and the cashier doesn't even tell you how much you owe. You just pay it. Whereas in a Lightning world, they actually show you. They're like, pay this, please, and then you like scan it and it goes.
Yes, I think this kind of leads nicely on to we talked about a Bitcoin standard world. So I think this interpretation is quite wide. I don't even know really where to start on this.
Well, it's like going back to the whole philosophy and phrase of what is Bitcoin, and there's so many things to what it is, and therefore the world of, I guess, of a Bitcoin standard world would be different as well. So yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, the reason why I put this one on there, I wanted to get a take from you guys, because there's two extreme views, and as with anything, when there's two extreme views, probably the right one's right in the middle. But I've seen the doom and gloom version of the Bitcoin standard, and so the doom and gloom one is, and both of these assume actually that Bitcoin wins. So Bitcoin's won. It is the Bitcoin standard now. What's the world look like? The doom and gloom version of that is Bitcoin has destroyed the world. The fiat wasn't as bad as we thought it was. Governments weren't as bad as we thought they were. They've collapsed. Hospitals have been destroyed. Education is destroyed. There's riots. Everyone's lost their wealth. There's some Bitcoiners hiding in an island somewhere, and they're crazy. They've got their guns and their freaking citadels, and they're like, fuck off. And but the other 6.9 billion people on the planet are in mass poverty. There's wars, civil wars, world wars, because the people in power lost all their money, and they kicked off, and they took it out on the population. The population are rioting, looting. It's just gone crazy. So the naysayers go, why do you want that world? Why do you want Bitcoin to win? And then that's the result. But then
doesn't sound like doom and gloom.
Provided you're inside the citadel, then you're probably okay. Yeah, but
I've got my Bitcoin. Well, the stuff which I didn't lose on my boating accident.
But then the other one, the Nirvana one, where a lot of Bitcoiners say, is it's going to be a much more peaceful transition, and it's going to slowly but surely make governments become smaller and more efficient as they realize they can't just keep printing money because they can't print Bitcoin. And essentially we get into a much more accountable kind of world where all governments now need to actually collect the right amount of tax that they need to spend it responsibly. They can't just keep loaning it out, bailing out banks, bailing out their favorite pharmaceutical companies, whatever it might be. There's actually accountability baked in. People have a store of value again. And actually we fix money, and from that we fix the world. And a lot of the corruption and bad kind of wars and stuff like that is all funded by fiat money, largely goes away. That's the Nirvana thing that Bitcoiners are working towards. But yeah, I wanted to bring it up to go, where are you on that metric? There's the freaking doom and gloom, everyone's rioting in the street and shooting each other, and you've got, no, it's just unicorns and rainbows and everyone's happy now, we fixed it.
I think there's a bit of a mix between the two in my eyes. I think closer to the Nirvana, but I think there's going to be a transition period which will cause some issues. I don't think the transition period will be that bad, because ultimately there's the resources. You've just got to adjust to the new kind of money. And also if you back an existing currency, because you always hear about, Bitcoin's a gold, what's a silver? Well, fiat, fiat is your silver. That's your day-to-day money. Gold is your savings.
Dogecoin.
So Dogecoin. I just feel like it's reinventing the wheel to have a silver when we've got fiat. So you might as well have fiat as your day-to-day and gold. So if you back fiat with Bitcoin, it means you put kind of, I suppose, a bit of a set of controls on a government so they can stop spending money on crap.
So what you're saying is you're assuming that everybody understands that the printing that we're doing right now is actually bad, and they don't. They haven't, that hurdle alone isn't really comprehensible to most people. The inflation of 2% isn't really comprehensible to most people. They don't understand that they are losing money and actually going, they're fighting an uphill battle.
Well, that's because their house has gained value, so they're happy. It's gained, $5,000 this year, but your savings over your lifetime have lost a shitload of value, and the price of bread has gone up. I think it is inevitable at some point. We've had the experiment for, was it just over 100 years since, was it 1918? Or am I out with that?
Yeah, so the gold standard, or
so the gold
standard in 1971.
We got the proper gold standard in 1918 when they inflated the money, which basically then triggered, and then the 1970s when they
It was
Um,
America came off the gold standard in 1971, but
Yeah.
the UK came off it in World War II, like 1940. Wow.
I thought it was World War One because they did. Because if you think before World War, how long was the biggest war? Proper
Actually,
war.
yeah, you're right. Yeah, I think it was World War One. I think that's where the 1918 you got is correct. Like that's when countries started coming off the gold standard. By 1971, the entire world was off it completely at that point.
I think 71 was to do with the reserves and how it's backed up with the dollar, because I think America did in a way so they could print money. I think it was a pause, Darnell. We were just chatting about it. So 1918, most of the world had a pause, so they could print money to fund First World War.
Yeah.
But it kind of comes back to, well, if
I just threw it in the chat there. So yeah, we came off in 31. US followed in 33, but then
they did
off.
pause, which I think had a knock-on effect of the Great Recession. So I feel it's like being a 100-year experiment, and
100%.
People like to use that argument about Bitcoin. Well, how can Bitcoin exist when it has no value? What value does fiat have? It's not backed by anything. It's literally the government saying it's worth this much. Oh no, it's actually worth this much because we've expanded it, and it. I think people have completely lost sight or don't understand, or have been lied to for most of their life, and it is failing and failing and failing, and it's just a matter of time. I don't know when it's going to be. I'm not going to claim it's going to be in a year, 2 years, 20 years, 50 years, but it's going to happen. And it's going to happen where it needs to be backed by something. If they want to do gold, that's probably the biggest threat to Bitcoin, because at least it's something which is slightly restricted. But then the issue is, is Michael Saylor's debate with, I can't remember his name,
Frank Booster.
All the gold mining companies have got years and years of reserves sitting in their vaults. Yeah. So 2% is a complete and utter lie for gold per year. They produce a lot more gold than that. And that's only what we know about on the balance sheets.
And the problem is, go and tell the people, like, if you are assuming, like, if you're not just slightly inconvenienced by it and it's your savings that are being eroded away, if it is more serious than that, and you are in Turkey or Venezuela, tell them that gold is a replacement for Bitcoin, and they'll laugh in your face. It's like, where number one, where the hell are they going to get it from? Like, it's like, how are they going to get it through a border? And how the hell do you even transact with it? These gold coins, this isn't the freaking...
Have a little shave off a bit.
Exactly. Imagine going to the shops and buying a freaking cup of coffee and like a sandwich with some gold shavings. Like, what are we even talking about?
I think it's the same principle. It's just having a currency backed by something which is a bit more sound. And that's my whole argument about Bitcoin is we need something more sound to back a currency.
Also, as well, people of our age, we're like, we want digital things. We're into digital things. Like, I think we may be on the cusp because we remember what CDs and tapes used to look like. Guys, I appreciate you didn't do music, so DVDs, but the majority of everybody else, that like in the younger generation, they're all about the streaming. So they never had that physical like attachment to something.
It's time to adapt, and I think it's time to make the governments accountable. We've let them get away, and I think it's just been highlighted in the pandemic where we've been printing money to do mass testing, which has driven a lot of the sanctions set in place. Without it, we wouldn't be able to lock down for a year, which wouldn't have resulted in various people being, killed from things like cancer. It wouldn't cause mass mental health. And then also the other argument which I've got is around minimum wage. So I think it's good to have a minimum wage because it stops exploitation. But when you keep on inflating money, it makes living almost impossible for people on a minimum wage. Whereas if you go minimum wage, which is actually a living wage, and it's set, and money is set, then that person can get by because they can buy their food, they can go on transport to save their job, they can buy clothes, and we know that is a living wage, not just, we're going to change the level now. No longer is a piece of bread, is a loaf of bread 45 pence, it's £1, but we're not going to change that minimum wage. So I think when people actually do grasp it, but after 100 years of a government lying, I think it won't be very easy, and I think it's going to probably happen gradually over time.
Well, there's always so Ray Dalio is thinking about this, and the book, I think I mentioned it on our first podcast, is The New World Order. So he's gone back and looked over 500 years of history and looked at the various different dynasties where it's changed from one dynasty to another. And of course, he's incorporated money into this. And what's going to be really interesting is the American dynasty is going to come to an end. We're all sat here and we all know it. And therefore, China is, fast approaching, faster than what we thought that they would be in terms of the new number one, because of the pandemic and again, because of the money printing. So when that happens, there's always that friction when number two takes over number one. They went from 8th, if we look back in like the Olympics of maybe 96 or so, and then maybe 2000. And then if you remember the Beijing Olympics, do you remember their opening ceremony? That was amazing, 2008. Yeah, and then all they've just done is continue to rise. And when they take over in what I think is going to be 2025, 26, that's when, that friction is going to happen. And then maybe we might get that reset that we're looking at.
Yes, it's going to be very interesting. Because I think that's the arrogance of the number one as well. Because one of the big reasons why China's got to where it's got to is because they did all the jobs and all the work that no one else wanted to do.
100%.
Everyone thought they were better than it. It's like, we don't need to manufacture stuff. That's easy, dirty work. And this is the thing. And just like coming back to your point there on the minimum wage there, Ross, that was a big catalyst for why the work left. Is because we weren't brought in these minimum wages, and suddenly we raised the minimum wage so high, people couldn't afford to build and manufacture basic goods because the employees cost too much to do the thing, and we didn't make enough money to buy them all. The price of goods went up because the thing is, this is the genius thing that people never realize. When you raise the minimum wage, that means companies have to pay their employees more, which therefore means they need to charge more for the product. So it doesn't change anything. The cost of living goes up as the minimum wage goes up. The millionaires are still at the top, laughing at the plebs. The plebs down the bottom, it doesn't matter whether you pay them £1 an hour, £10 an hour, or £1,000 an hour. It literally doesn't matter because the cost of living will just go up the same because the costs to produce stuff will go up in line. The only reason the minimum wage did make an impact on America and on Britain and Europe is because we didn't have to suffer the cost of those wages inside our countries. We outsourced it and got slave labor from China for decades, and they built everything for nothing. So as the minimum wage went up, our cost of living didn't go up as quickly because we weren't suffering the wages. We were putting these people into different type of industries that have much higher profit margins. So all our goods was coming over from China. And now they've turned the screw on us and gone, you're outsourcing 90% of your goods and services to us. We can start charging you more now. Now it's our game. Correct. Now you're dependent. It's like we've given you the samples, we've given you the free samples, we've been your slave for the last 20 years. Now it's time to turn master, and they're turning the table on us. Literally,
100%.
the free COVID test that I got when I was walking through town today, and I got 14 free tests. I thought I'd won the lottery. I thought these are 200 quid a pop. I was like shoveling through the street, like, oh my God, I've won the lottery. And but when I unboxed it, I looked at the little user manual. What does it say on the back? Made in China.
Made in China. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point which you just made. I think the what do they call it, where they basically give a minimum amount of money to everyone in the country per month. What's that one called? Which is where we're bored. Yeah, where we're basically people saying, "Oh, we should do this," but I'm like, well,
it's kind of everything like really left, isn't it? Social.
Yeah,
social.
It'll just mean that the cost of everything absolutely explodes and no one gets that. Whereas, like, I think minimum wage, there is some practicality behind it, but like you said, it means that we ended up with China becoming great because of it. I think it is quite complicated. I think, in a way, sound money does help to sort this if the whole world is on sound money, because then it actually sets a standard across multi-country. So you do end up with a slightly adjusted world.
Yeah, Ross, you need to read some Bitcoin Twitter threads when Biden and who's the other guy, Bernie Sanders, start saying what the next minimum wage should be. And I think it used to be like $8 or $9 or something in the UK. Not the UK, the US, and it's just gone up to 15. And then there's some other kind of political people going, it shouldn't be 15. That's still poverty. It should be 30. And if you have a look at these threads where Bitcoin is going, it's like, why not 1,000? Why not 10,000 an hour? Why not 100,000? Like, you're just making shit up now. Like, it doesn't, like, why should we have a living wage? Everyone should be a millionaire. God damn you. £1,000 an hour. Like, why? And it's just, it doesn't make any sense. If everyone's a millionaire, we're literally living in that film. You know, what is it called? Like Chaos, that stupidity one where they're putting Gatorade on the crops. Like,
legendary film, one with is it Luke Wilson?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And who's Terry Crews is the
he's the president.
Is the president of the world. And I remember him he's got a scene where he goes, I want to make everyone a millionaire. And he just does it. And it's like, that's the stupidity that we're in. It's like, if everyone's a millionaire, then now being a millionaire is meaningless. It's only like, it's just, you got to get it in your head. It's like, it's not about having £1 million. It's like, £1 million is only valuable if only a few people have that and everyone else has only got a couple of thousand. Now that has meaning. If everyone has £1 million, you're still poor. No one will give you anything for that million because everyone's already got the same.
Yeah, hence the whole thing about inflation. Houses say, what's the average? 265 now, whereas probably in the 70s it's about whereas it's probably £6,000 in the 70s. It's just the value of money has shifted over the last 50 years.
This is also one of my aspirations as well. So, you know, when we're talking, so we not only would be doing the podcast together, but we'd have somebody fact-checking this and Googling and then shouting back, okay, yeah, the average house price is X, and coming back with us rather than me screaming off.
If we get to that, I'd hope we're getting paid by that point.
Yeah. We need our Jamie, don't we?
Yeah.
Like, Jamie, let's check that for me. Look that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Should we go on to, because we mentioned Bitcoin Twitter there, should we go on to the drama that happened? I saw on Bitcoin Twitter literally last night, where we've got, I think it's a fellow pleb. You know, I've only followed him for the last couple of months, and he's retired from his day-to-day job. Seems to have done very well in his Bitcoin life, and is now just traveling the world doing his own thing. Thinks he's all nice and self-sovereign. Has got his Bitcoin on a hardware wallet, and then I don't know whether I want to mention the name. I will. It's called BC Vault. I had never heard of it until last night. I've Googled it, and it does look legit. They do seem to be legitimate. But the problem that he had was he logged in. There's a number of passwords and passcodes on this BC Vault thing. For anyone listening, it's like, do not buy this wallet. Do not buy this hardware wallet. Buy a Ledger.
It does say the world's safest hardware wallet. It has never been compromised.
I know, and that was a beautiful thing with marketing, because they might even be right, but it can fail. That's the problem with this wallet. From the looks of it, it could fail. So in this guy's experience, he's got all the passwords, he's got all the PIN codes. Then he tried to send some Bitcoin from that wallet, and it's failing. It's coming up with errors. It's not letting him send. So he posts this.
Could you imagine?
Oh, I know. He has put all his Bitcoin into one wallet.
Surely he hasn't. Surely it's some kind of marketing ploy. He's doing something. Someone who's living just off their Bitcoin, surely you'd have 10 or so.
You would hope so, but regardless, it's the fact is this wallet undoubtedly is someone to avoid, because they've dug into it. And the first bit of advice, obviously, Bitcoiners gave him was don't worry about it. Get another one and put your 24 words into the other wallet. Like, and people are even offering to send him one. Like, just here's another wallet. Like, just put your 24 words into this. And you went, what's 24 words? And seems to be the only hardware wallet on the market that
without the
Bitcoin has got this baked in, right? About a year after Bitcoin launched, they came up with the C word kind of recovery phrase. So every single wallet since has piggybacked on that, and they all use the same one. So you can use any wallet, put your 24 words in, and it'll regenerate your wallet. Because you've got to assume the hardware wallet you have could get broken, could get lost, could just break on its own. It's just some technology, right? You smash some technology around, it's going to break. These things always break. But it doesn't matter. You've got a hard copy of your words. You can put that into a new device. It reactivates it, and you're back up and running. This device seems to have just a number of passwords and passcodes on it. If it breaks, apparently there is some form of backup that you can put into it, but it's on some type of SD drive. And who knows if that could also fail. This isn't, your 24 words can't fail, provided you don't lose them, of course. But that's why the 24 words is so genius, because it's outside of technology. You write them down or you engrave them into metal, and that can't break. It's like they are there. Whereas if it's on a device that also has a SD card backup of the device, these two things can very easily fail, and might quite well fail at the same time. And this seems to be what has happened to this guy. And it's just a massive warning, because this is definitely a guy that should know better. This is not a noob. He's been in this space for a number of years. He thought he had the hardware wallet. He's obviously seen the 24 words thing around. He's like, oh, I heard about that. I just didn't know why mine didn't have them. I just thought you all used a different wallet. And yeah, he just thought 24 words was a feature of certain wallets, and not all wallets had it.
right.
And he's just been it's completely passed him by. And yeah, it's just another really important lesson for everyone, that when you become your own bank, like, you've got to be accountable for these type of decisions. Like, and if you make a bad one, it's all over.
I think we've all kind of followed the same one with the cold storage, haven't we? Or use the what's it called, Ledger Nano, or some derivative, because it is, you've got it stored on kind of a USB. You've got an 8-digit code on it, and then you can also back it into 24 words, which is then your metal engraved. But I think we've gone for different options on that.
Yeah.
But I think we're all kind of like along the same lines. Basically, can it survive a fire? Can it survive a flood? That kind of thing. So if you have lost your electronics, and at least you've got metal backed up, and you can buy a new wallet or Ledger Nano, to then transfer them across to. And I think it just makes sense.
Yeah. So I was just reading as it's going through. So the word lists are very common these days, and obviously the BIP39 English word list has just over, I think, the 4,000 words or so that are in there. And for your 24 words, it also talks about classic paper and pen. Yes, there's so many things that could happen to that paper and pen: fire, bad handwriting, water, spillages. But it's
even
better
just
to
age.
have even age. Exactly, it's better to have something than nothing. But yeah, I think the metal backup is the one, and of course there's a range of those that are out there. I think you need to, when you're starting to make these games, put something away and just have it, and make sure you've got it somewhere super safe.
Yeah, for the noob, the average person coming in, what valuation do you think someone should go into the hardware wallet space?
Yeah, because they're not cheap.
No.
So you're absolutely right.
What is it, about £80 for a nano, and then probably the same again for the metal?
And they've gone up in price as well. They've risen inflation.
So that's 160. So I think in my head I'm saying 1,600 equivalent. So that's 10%. Yeah, I think that's probably safe. Or if you want to go 5%, 3,200. I think at some point when you get into thousands, you got to do the crossover.
So in the meantime, just leave it on the exchange.
Yeah, so it is backed up to, what is it, 70 grand? Is that the agreement? In the UK?
So you mean the same as like, the
current accounts.
Yeah,
I think it's all covered under the same regs. So, that'd be my advice. Like, I use the crypto steel capsule. I just had to have a Google to actually find out what it was called, which Gaz knows as a prison storage.
Prison safe. Prison safe.
I just like it because I don't have to engrave it, and it's all stored on a tube. I suppose the risk is if you don't clip it in properly and try and read it, you end up with them everywhere. But I think you'd have to try especially hard to get that wrong.
Yeah, no, I think about the same. Yeah, I've been saying, because I think I always advise don't buy one ledger as well, buy two at least. Just so you don't have that heart attack. Like, just assume one breaks, don't. And just have the other one. And the other one's also good for practicing on as well. I always like just the first time you fired up the first one, you got the 24 words, you're 100% certain that they're right. You've tested them, you've double checked it, triple checked it. Just go and enter them into the fresh ledger. Just do it anyway. And then if you want to reset it, then great. And then just practice and do that 17 times. Just do it. And then every 6 months, do it again. Just do it. Because
do you think this is maybe the first stage of the high time preference, low time preference? Because what you're saying right now is time consuming.
Yeah.
And people don't want to do that. And, it's like everything else. Yeah, I've bought it on the app. It's super easy. And okay, maybe I should take it off the app. And, it's like each step becomes slightly harder. And you can't just wait for the industry or technology to make it easy for you. This part, there's no easy part out of this. There's no quick win. It's time.
I need to test it more often. So when I did my backup, that's the last time which I did it. But I need to look into actually how to do it, because it is looking into all because I did it. I put it into my metal. I tested it off the written one, double checked the written versus metal, but I probably need to check it against the metal as well, because I think it is always risk.
It's and the updates as well, and the ledger itself. They have constant updates.
They do. And I'll tell you, like the first couple of firmware updates that you do with Ledger, you shit it.
Yeah,
I can guarantee you do, because I did. Like this was back in the day. It's like they're always a bit scary. Even learning how to update the firmware is scary. You're always assuming, like, number one, like the device might brick itself, but you're more worried about, is this a scam? Like, what am I doing? Whenever I plug my Ledger into my laptop and it starts updating, downloading a firmware update, I just shit it. I hate connecting my Ledger to my laptop. I'm like, what? My laptop, I assume, is just riddled with viruses and bad people in there trying to get me constantly. So whenever my Ledger comes out of the safe and goes into that computer, I start getting panicking already. And what you don't want is to be in the situation that this guy's in right now, where he hasn't really. What he's done here, this is why he's got into this situation, is he heard the name of a hardware wallet on some YouTube channel once. And I can guarantee they were paid to mention this one. So they've just recommended a random wallet that is not the best wallet for them. The fact that it doesn't use 24 words guarantees you that. So he has just picked up on that, and he's done it. He's stored his Bitcoin there and has been stacking and just building, and it's all worked for him fine. And he has never tested his setup. He's probably found a load of reasons and a load of different wallets in his time in Bitcoin, but he's never bothered to spend the time to just double check that he has the right wallet. Does his backup work? And then the worst thing that could happen has happened. He's got a problem. And he's never tested this system back to front, the full way, assuming there's an issue. And now there is, his life savings are on the line. And if he's made a mistake, he's done. It's over. So this is the thing. When you get into this space, you just for your own peace of mind, the more times you practice this, it eventually.
God, I'm going to do this right after this.
He's got me thinking, I can't go to bed now.
I need to do my metal, I suppose the advice as well is making sure it's well hidden, because you are your own bank, and with Bitcoin price going up, you're gonna have more and more.
I'm
Kinda
guilty.
like,
I still haven't bought a safe.
I haven't done it, but I've got plans. I've been discussing it with the wife. But it's what to store where, because another aspect is you've got your ledgers. They need 8 digits in them, which is fair enough. So you can have one wherever, and someone's got to have the 8 digits. So the kind of possibility of getting to that number within, 3 attempts is very, very low chance of actually achieving it. With your crypto steel, so written on the steel, if you have your 24 words together, that's the key for everything. So I've been thinking, well, I'm going to have to buy multiple ones of those because I want to divide that up and have it in different locations, because I can't have the 24 words together. Because if someone does find your hiding place, which is, buried under my house for anyone who wants to know, then they've got, the remaining sats which I've got, which I didn't lose on my boating accident.
Well, this is what I was just reading. So about methods that are not recommended. And one of them is some people get the idea to split up their phrases, like storing 6 words in one location and 6 words in another location. It's told that this is a bad idea and should not be done, because if one set of the 6 words is discovered, then it becomes far easier to brute force the rest of the phrase. Storing bitcoins in multiple locations like this should be done with multiple signature wallets instead.
So you're saying store the 24 words, but just have your Bitcoin split into, say, 5 different sets?
Yeah. Maybe we need to do a podcast on this.
Yeah, maybe we need to do a bit of research on that one, because that's 100%. Probably a good topic. Because I'm not up to date on it. I need to be better with what I've got. I could probably bet that we're still better than Mark, who will get slated because he isn't here. I imagine his is written on a piece of paper, which is in his wallet.
I dread to think where his 24 words are. It makes me shiver just thinking about it.
And I reckon his ledger is on his keychain for his car.
That actually really annoys me about Ledger, the fact they even put a keyring on it. It's like, don't put keyrings on something. This is encouraging people to freaking put it on their keys. It should not be on their keys. What the freaking hell are you doing this for?
Yeah. Parading it around like it's
Yeah,
so,
it's like a mug me sign. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, put a gun to my head and make me open this. Like, what the hell are you doing? This isn't.
You see, I think we probably should save this topic for when Mark is attending, so he has to listen or do some research on this.
Or should we just surprise him with asking him where his 24 words are? Although he's not going to tell it. It's not. You shouldn't ask him. But at the same time, I can just ask him. Actually, has he hidden them? Like, and I've been
tell him. Ask him 2 questions. 1, a request. Show me your keys for your car. 2, show me the inside of your wallet. I think it's one to discuss, and it's one which we'll have to come up with some, say, streamlined topics around.
Maybe we all go off and research exactly that. There's stages, and then
it sounds like even Gaz may need certain things in this to check up some details, and I know myself and Darnell definitely need more detail.
Yeah, I mean, you can talk about your prison safe version of your metal backup, and I'll talk about mine.
Yeah, I was going to say, I won't be showing it because it's an absolute pain in the arse to get to.
Literally.
As if you just said that. We're talking about prison safe and it's a pain in the arse to get to.
No, it's not that.
Happy editing, Gaz. The comedy gods have just arrived.
I was going to say, that's probably the opening statement, unless you want to put one of the insults about Mark at the start.
That's my favourite part of the podcast, actually. When I'm listening to it back, I'm like, let's just find the funny bits and put them at the beginning. I don't listen to the rest of it. I'm like, I can't be bothered.
It's going to be pain in the arse or something about Mark holding it in his wallet. And then that'll get him fired up and we'll get a load of messages coming through. So don't keep them in my wallet.
That's a clickbait material, isn't it? That, it's a pain in the arse. Oh, this looks good. Watch this. And then, keep them hooked. Once they're hooked, they're in, aren't they?
Yeah, I suppose we can talk about the advantages and disadvantages, but maybe that's a good topic. So maybe in 2 weeks' time.
Well, it's a topic that's a really strong topic because it's not going away anywhere. Like, still, as we know, it's easy-ish to buy it on an exchange, it's not so easy to take it off the exchange, to set up your ledger. You know, I'm still perhaps similar to you guys, like watching YouTube videos and then rerunning that back and thinking, okay, this is what I need to do for certain things. And, you know, if I want to split my Bitcoin, then I'm going to do it across multiple ledgers. I don't know how to do that, so I'm going to have to research it and look at it. So, yeah, if we're pretty smart guys, then I fear for everybody else.
No, that's why I always do say, like, when it comes down to it, it is tough. Everyone, it's a whole series of things. Like you get Bitcoin at the price you deserve, and then securing it. If you put your time and effort in, then you also get what you deserve there as well. But I do think for everyone needs to be like the Bitcoin guy for their family. If you're listening to this, you probably already are, and because that's what I do. I've got a backup. I think you need my backup. I need a human backup because I'm the one that knows my process. But what if I disappear? So my backup there is my brother. He knows the process, and I've given him enough clues that if anything happens to me, he can recover that. And
what happens if he just takes all your money?
Yeah, he could, but I know him, and I would kill him. And but actually, there's enough things that he can't do it from where he is. So he knows where to go to get the clues, but to get to the clues, he would need to kind of go through me. So it's not, so basically the start of the clue, I need to be dead for it to kind of be revealed. So I've even protected myself from him. I don't even trust him explicitly. But
I think when you're in a different situation, like myself, like married, my wife does know.
Yeah.
But I do need to complicate what I've done, and I have warned her that's going to have to happen because as Bitcoin goes up, I need to make things a bit more secure.
Do you genuinely think, let's just assume that, let's say you were gone and so you just disappeared now, and let's even assume your hardware wallet is broken, so she's just left with the 24 words. Do you think your Bitcoin never sees the light of day again?
You know what she said? If anything did happen to me, she'd probably end up trying to go through my phone to find your contact details. But what she doesn't know is you're stored under a nickname.
and also, I would come in and be like, I'd restore it all and be like, nope, he didn't have any Bitcoin. Nothing there. I'd be like, where'd the new yacht come from, Gaz? Like, well, it's a coincidence. Hi, Mrs. McDonald. You're all out of
it.
Yeah, probably do need to detail.
If you need a shoulder to cry on, I'm here as well. We'll mourn him together.
Yeah, I'll buy a big yacht and call it like Ross McDonald, and that's just a coincidence. I just like the name.
Paid for by Ross McDonald. It's just a joke which I had with Ross.
And then the funniest thing will be you'll turn up on the boat and she'll be like, you bastard, you're not even dead. He faked his own death.
Oh God, I have to come up with a multi-clue process for her to get the hands on the Bitcoin.
It sounds like a two-part podcast. First is obviously the encryption and making sure it's super, super secure. And then the next part is who's then going to help with one that's super, super secure and you're no longer here as your backup.
Yeah, it's the inheritance planning is a very real
thing.
And as time goes on, because Bitcoin's relatively new, it's only 12 years old. If you fast forward, it's 50, 60 years old, there's going to be a whole series of Bitcoiners that do need to pass this down. And 100%. It's a very real problem.
Well, it's something which I've been thinking about with the kids as well. Because, what we need to do is we've got some money which we've set aside to buy some Bitcoin for them just to stick into their assets. You know, we do put some money monthly into accounts for them to invest. Whereas I said, you know, at some point we should do Bitcoin as a hedge. My wife, I love your face. You're like, that's not a hedge.
No, it's not a hedge. That's that's the proper savings account is by putting into Bitcoin. Like, I don't know why you never save money in fiat.
You see, as we've discussed,
money's going to be worthless.
As we have discussed, I am trying to push the wife more towards reading the Bitcoin standard. So maybe we'll have progress in the future about this.
Literally, what I
And
would
maybe
tell
she
her.
could be a special guest. Imagine that.
You can ask
Also,
her.
as well, our kids' grandkids will probably be around in the year 2140. So when the last coins are mined. So therefore, that's
Grandkids aren't happening in my house that early.
no, your kids' grandkids.
Do you say 2140? What you said 2040?
Yeah.
I was just
No,
like
2140. So
was
you know
like,
that's when the last blocks will be coming out. So, you know, at that point, obviously we're never going to see that. So when we're talking about this planning and this future planning, that's, you know, obviously we're not going to be here to even see it, but that's super wealth passing and wealth generation.
Yeah, I think that's one area. It goes into this whole process which we're talking about, how to make it more simple. It will in time. We just don't know what the solution is yet. Because as I was listening to Elon's Audible book, I was thinking about this. You know, if you think about one thing to improve, it's money at the moment in my mind. And part of that is Bitcoin, and part of that is storage and security around it. Because at the moment it is quite complicated. So how can it be made better? But by 2140, it will be. It's just how.
Yeah. Have you got a will, by the way, Kaz?
Yeah.
Have I got a what?
And Ross, you've got a will.
Oh,
Yeah.
well. No, I haven't actually got one, no.
I haven't. So it's things like that. You know, it's that succession planning.
Yeah.
See, mine is based around, you know, if I'm the first to die.
I'm not surprised you've got a will, Ross. I'm not surprised.
If I'm the first to die.
Have you just updated it every month from 15
Oh no,
years old?
it's general rules. So it's if I'm the first to die, if my wife's the first to die, and then if we both die. So it's basically looking at things like guardianship and then also dividing of assets, because whilst I want my wife to go on and live her life, I want to ring fence a certain amount of assets for the kids.
Well, you don't trust her. You don't trust her to take it all.
It's not around that. Well,
this is being recorded.
It literally is. You're literally ring fencing money for the kids because you're worried she's going to go out and buy a load of handbags.
The actual reason is family legacy.
You're such a tight bastard. I'm glad it's gone.
It's what actually happens with someone who remarried in my family. Basically, they siphon off the money to their family away from my side. So there is actually logic and a madness there.
So you think your wife might do that to you?
No, it's more the fact that if you do remarry, then it's basically making sure our kids have a certain amount. Yeah, and so that they can buy a house, you know, when they're in their 20s, and she can get on with her life but live a good life. So it's not like saying, 50% goes to the kids. It's like saying an amount.
Perfect.
But the Bitcoin will have to be factored into it. But I think it does just take into account all assets.
Sweet. It's been a good one, guys. I think we're
cool. Definitely. I like that. I like that, definitely.
I might have to actually upgrade the £10 a month so we don't keep getting cut off every 40 minutes. But who knows? Maybe the investment will be made. We'll see next week.
Yeah, we'll see. With our new
fellow plebs, if you want to hear us, then tune in.